Thank you, Bisnow Houston, for inviting me to be a panelist at the Houston Architecture and Design Summit this year. Greatly appreciate the willingness to hold space for some uncomfortable but very necessary conversation.
I would like for Kimberly, Kirby, Corey, Matthew, and Emily to let us know a little about each of you.
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see some familiar faces and some new ones. My name is Kimberly Phipps-Nickel, and today I am here as the Vice President of a small local nonprofit, Friends of Columbia Tap. My day job is usually with you all in the world of design and planning for healthcare and community and sustainability projects, but I'm very grateful today to be here representing Friends of Columbia Tap. Friends of Columbia Tap is the steward, essentially, of the 4 miles of the Columbia Tap Trail that connects Edo to essentially the Med Center and the Herman Park area. And it allows you to transit from that part of the city down to the Med Center, never having to be in a car. And it's a trail that was built on a former rail line that was built in the 1850s by enslaved persons for the purpose of moving cotton and sugar from the plantations down in the south, like West Columbia, up to Houston and then out to Galveston. It is the reason that Texas was so powerful in the Industrial Revolution. The money that moved on that rail was critical. And so we are very honored to be the stewards of that, and I get to be responsible for the projects that take place along that trail, including the World Cup ones, some of which were mentioned a little bit earlier in the previous panel.
Houston's appetite for investing in parks, trails, and public spaces is growing. What's driving that shift, and what does real community buy-in look and feel like? Kimberly, your passion project resonated with me so very much, the Columbia Tap Trail. This question I know resonates with you and your missions. Can you comment?
Yes, and because I often am the one who brings up painful subjects, right? So we have to have the uncomfortable conversation about how Houston funds basic services. Our parks are the lungs of our cities. They do a lot of heavy lifting for how Houstonians exist. And so the funding mechanisms are really challenged right now. And so we know that if you're going to planning commission meetings, if you're going to city council meetings, you know that this is fiscal year 27 budget season. And so the money is what's on the table. And Parks is, again, looking like they're gonna take a hit and be asked to do more with less, which means that we now, as a city, have become heavily reliant upon billionaires and conservancies and friends of groups to pick up the slack and fill in that gap. And for the 4th largest city in the US, that's not necessarily a great place to be, because it means that we as an entity are not investing in a really, really important quality of life indicator. And so it's the reason that I will be speaking at the Planning Commission tomorrow, specifically about the open space ordinance that is being proposed to bring City of Houston in line with the Texas legislation, the local governments, I think it's 212 if I have that correct. And it has to do with park spaces based on new residential development units, and whether you provide a private park as a developer or whether you pay a fee in lieu. And that fee in lieu has been $700 per unit since 2007. So imagine all my professionals that bill on an hourly rate, if you have not raised your rates since 2007. and you're still trying to produce more work. So I will be there asking them to consider doing what is identified and allowed as a maximum to also increase that fee. And I know the developers don't like to hear that, but a $600 per unit, just slightly under 600 per unit increase is not going to suddenly put units into unaffordability, but does a lot to pick up the slack for our small neighborhood parks that are really carrying the load because they're the ones that are accessible to our most underserved residents.
Amazing, amazing. Next question. Programming and activation are often the difference between spaces that get used and ones that don't. What does smart engagement look like, and how do you and your clients understand to know that it's actually working? And Kimberly.
Yeah, so I've heard, I think everybody use the term community engagement. And community engagement, I know when I was a developer and when I've worked with developers, it was like one of the less favorite categories because people felt like pincushions. But really, community engagement is now my favorite part of the process, because it's really where we get to sit with the people who will hopefully be using it. And like most of us in design and project management, we begin with the end in mind. It's the programming first. We're asking people what they need and when and how it's delivered so that we design the events and the activations in the space for that. And so getting that community support is huge. So for Columbia Tap Trail, we have an action plan which was developed over years of time by and for the community. And we worked with the Community Design Resource Center. And it was a great opportunity to remind ourselves that while yes, we believe that there should be no project without a study, especially in Third Ward, there should be no more studies without projects, because the community is tired. They have been studied, and what they want and need is well documented, and they're asking us to do it.
Wonderful. Yeah, great contribution. Last question. Every great city has something that makes people feel like they belong. A space, an experience, a feeling that's distinctly its own. What is Houston building right now that has the potential to become that? Wonderful. Kimberly.
So I am super biased about the projects that we're working on along the trail because it connects so many things. You heard the first panel talk about nodes and the needing to fill the spaces between. The action plan that we worked on actually identifies intersections specifically as nodes because that's how the neighborhood relates to them as a space that they come and connect at. And so the projects that we're working on there are really, really exciting. And I got to give a shout out to Perkins and Will in the room because they donated the design for the proposed Kirk Jackson Memorial Farmers Market Pavilion that we're working on at TSU Farms adjacent to the trail. And so for me, what is really exciting is that collaboration where I get to work with people who might normally be my competitors. And so we want more architects and engineers and landscaping architects to really take that mantle of responsibility and also invest professional time, because we can't do these projects without our industry stepping up in a way that we specialize.
To take it to the next level. Beautiful.